Hello, I'm Tonya Duncan Ellis with an episode of Write This, my author interview show. And today I am thrilled to welcome children's author Janet Sumner Johnson on to talk about her author journey and her newest works. So this is going to be an exciting show. I see that she's here, so let me get her on. Invite her on if I can. Let's see. Wave to her. So let's get her on. This is going to be a good show, yes. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Tanya?
Fine. I'm so happy that we finally got a chance to connect. I know we had planned to do the interview a while ago, so it's good to
Yes. The lovely COVID, right?
have. And I've just been taking in all your content on your channel, Janet, and I just love all that you've shared. So if you're not following her, please be sure to follow her Instagram reels. They're hilarious.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. I've
Yeah.
been having a lot of fun just playing with all that is being an author and a parent.
Right, because a lot of her reels focus on the author life and challenges that authors have coming up with content, writing our books, dealing with rejection, and also juggling parenting with working. So they're really relatable for people in any kind of career path or small business. So they're really inspiring to me.
Oh, that means a lot. Thank you. I really
Yes.
appreciate that.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? And a little bit about how you became a writer.
Yeah, absolutely. I live in Logan, Utah. And I grew up a little bit south of here, and I've kind of lived across the whole country since I got married. We traveled to Missouri and Virginia, back to Oregon, and then back to Utah. So we've lived in like every single time zone in the continental United States. So it's been kind of fun to see different areas of the world. I have been writing a lot since I was little, but I never wanted to be an author until I got older and I realized I was doing it in all my spare time. I was writing. I just love to make people laugh and, just I love books. And so my husband, he really encouraged that. He was like, you should, try and do something with all of this stuff that you're writing. So I began the work of learning the whole writing business and spent years and years and years doing that. And in 2016, I had a middle grade book come out. And then in 2020, my first picture book came out. And I've had one more come out and a few more coming.
Wow.
Um, but that's a little bit about me and my journey with writing.
Well, I know you've been busy. I hear your dogs out there barking.
Ah,
Huh.
man, I put on the headphones hoping that he would not he
Yeah,
would
the
not be
dog wants
heard, but
part in with the interview too, because you're
yeah.
barking back in the background. Yeah, but it sounds like you've been really busy in because I see you have all these announcements coming out. You got a couple books coming out too.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate. In January, I have a bad case of the almost. In fact, I have I kind of show it off. This is the ARC, the Advanced Reader Copy. It comes out um, January 2nd. And then I have another one. It's a series, a picture book series coming out with Pixel and Ink in February. It's called The Recess Genius. Open for Business is the title of book one. But yeah, so that's been really fun. And then I have a middle grade series that's going to be coming out starting next fall. So all these things, you work and work and work, and then suddenly it's like everything happens at once. So
Right. Now, Janet, I have a lot of aspiring authors who tune in, people who are interested in becoming authors and may not have completed their work. What was your path? I know you said you loved to write. I became familiar with you in the 12 by 12 picture book group, or are
yeah.
there steps you would recommend to people if they're interested in writing?
Oh, absolutely. The first thing, groups like 12 by 12, for example, I started with making picture book magic and Susanna, I'm going to suddenly space her last name, Susanna Leonard Hill, her class, and just learn what it means to write it. If picture books are your thing, to do that, or if it's middle grade, attend conferences, or there's a lot of classes you can watch online, just learning what that actually means. I mean, we're all readers if we're living to write for the most part, and we think we know how to write the book. I did when I was starting out. And once I started taking classes and started reading about things like voice and things like pacing and things like setting, there's so much to learn about writing that I think joining those, whether 12 by 12 for picture books, SCBWI is also a great place. I have a lot of conferences. There's so many groups in Facebook that you can join, like middle grade binders and Kidlit 411. All of these are great places to ask questions and just learn from those who are doing it, because there are people who are published who are in all of these places where you can learn. The second step, once you've started that learning process, is to, and you've been writing, join a critique group. I've learned so much from my critique partners. When I started, I was very fortunate that they let me in because I had no idea what I was doing. And I learned so much from their comments on my work, but also just seeing the whole process. And critiquing other people's work was transformative in all reality. So those are the first two steps I would take for those who are just starting off, who have ideas and they want to write a book. That helped me immensely on my path and helped me know where I wanted to go with what I was doing with my books.
Right. And then if you're a member of SCBWI, if you're a children's author, there are ways you can join critique groups through your local
Mm-hmm.
and even 12 by 12. So many of these writing groups have options to join critique groups in them included. So those are
Mm-hmm.
great to start to find those critique partners. Right. Now tell us about your newest work, Braver Than Brave, that's out now. Is that just released recently?
It did. It came out in, I'm going to pull a copy here. It came out in August, Braver Than Brave. And this one is about Wanda, who just admires her big brother, who's the bravest kid she knows. But she just is not brave like him. And so when her friends want to follow him onto the brand new roller coaster, she decides, okay, maybe this is my chance, or maybe not. So she has to figure out how to find her own brave in the face of everyone watching her. She's following her brother's footsteps. But
Oh,
that one, I came up with the idea of it when my daughter was complaining about everyone telling her to just be brave. And I had a son who he faced down an actual chicken exit on a roller coaster. And that just seemed, I put those two ideas together, and it was really fun to look at what it actually means to be brave for a kid and what it means to find your own brave and do those things that work for you and not just following the crowd. So
and that sounds like a great way to help kids work through those fears and trying new things. And yeah, right, doing what's brave for them and not just following along with what's.
yeah, I feel like we tell kids all the time, oh, just do it. Just be brave. You can, without considering who that actual kid is on the inside and what they need. I know I've done it to my kids when I just want to just do it. It's not that hard. Like to me, it's not, but to them, that's a whole different thing. And it's as I've had the chance to read this to kids, it's really opened up some conversations of things that they've faced, and it's been really eye-opening to me.
Mhm.
The kids' reactions to the book. It's just been really fun to see that.
Yeah, it looks like a great book. I'll have to request it at my library if it's not there. So make sure that we get that in here in Texas and have that
Well,
here.
thank you.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, I love watching your reels because I find them as a creative so relatable. How do you come up with the concepts, or what's your process like for that? Because that's like a creative thing in itself.
It is. It's been so fun to do something creative that's not writing, because sometimes with writing, you get in your rut and you do things the same way. So my process with the reels is I watch a lot of reels to start, and you kind of see the trends of the sounds that are coming. So when I hear a sound, I'll just save it. I think, oh, that might be fun later. Maybe I could do something with it. And I'll just save all these sounds. And when I usually just on a Sunday afternoon, I have some time. So I'll listen to all of those sounds and think about my week and what I've been dealing with. So like lately, I've talked a lot about being on deadline. It's because I'm on deadline. So kind of taking the things I'm facing and how could I take the sound, the words that are being said in that sound and twist them to what I'm dealing with. And sometimes I have to, listen to a lot of sounds before I kind of vibe with what's something that fits that I think is funny. They don't all land, some of them I think are hilarious and other people are like, not so much. But, really, as long as I'm having fun with it and enjoying the process and it's helping me to exercise my creativity in another way, I think that's the important thing for anyone else who's looking to do that, just finding for me, because humor is important to me. It may not be humor for you or for anyone who's doing that, but just finding a way to laugh at all the hard things that we face as authors. And it's been actually really great because I feel like I've connected with a lot of authors. I feel a little less alone in some of these things I'm going through because people have reached out and said, oh, I feel that so much. And I feel like that really helps to connect me to other creatives, know that this is part of the process. We're not alone.
Yeah, that's what I like about them is that I actually just did a presentation for some other creatives on social media. And because a lot of our work is solitary, that like your reels and things like that help build the community and you see other people going through a lot of the same stuff. Because some days when I'll be like, oh, I'm just goofing off the internet, I'll see one of your reels and you'll have, she's doing the same thing today. So I really enjoy those.
Lynn, I've enjoyed yours too. I think you do great things with social media. You're really inspirational and you give a lot of positive encouragement. I just love that you do that. So I think you're doing great with yours too.
Now, we've talked a lot about your picture books. I see you also have middle grade. So can you tell us about that? And are you working on any new middle grade projects?
Yeah, so my first book, that's where I started, was middle grade. Before I dared, I thought picture books looked too hard, so it would be a lot easier to do middle grade. And those who write picture books might get it. Um, so my first middle grade is kind of a Goonies type thing. It's a two best friends who Annie, the main character, wants to save her best friend from having to move, who is losing his house to foreclosure. And so they end up going on a treasure hunt, and she comes up with all the ways to try and save it. And just, she's a go for it type of person and just do it and doesn't always think things through, whereas her friend's the opposite. So that was my first middle grade. So recently, after turning the picture books for quite a while, I decided I wanted to write a mystery. If anyone's ever read Westingame, I don't know if you've heard of it.
I've heard of it. I've never read it. I need to read it because you see or things alluding to it all the time.
Yeah, The Parker Inheritance, that one by Marian
Yeah,
Johnson.
I've read that book and I read that it was like the Westing game or somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, where they have the puzzles. It's called a puzzle mystery where they have to solve the clues. And I just feel like there aren't enough of those in the world. That's where I um, came at the book from is I wanted a puzzle mystery, one where you could read the clues and try to solve it as the reader and do
Hmm.
it. So without telling my agent, just went for it. And luckily, when I showed it to her, she loved it. And it happily found a home with Pixel and Ink as a series, no less.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that to come out. It's been a huge challenge writing a mystery, and it's kind of intricate. It's a lot more intricate than picture books. But so I'm working on, because it's a series, I've got book two, that the deadline. That's what I'm on deadline for, is I've got to finish book two and get that turned in so that we can be on schedule for the series
Oh, but that's so exciting.
dates.
Because would you ever have imagined when you started out, right? You said 2016 is when you started, that you would be in this place.
Oh, definitely. I never honestly I never wanted to be a series writer because you've got to know this with your wonderful series, Sophie Washington, like keeping all the things straight that they've done in the past and
Right.
just dropping in hints. And I always knew that. I just admire series authors so much because that's a lot of work keeping that all straight. Um, so yeah, it was definitely a surprise when it sold as a series. I wrote it as a standalone and with series potential though. And yeah, I definitely did not see myself here, but it's been so fun to stretch myself and try different things um, and it feels good too, to have interest and someone wanting to read more than one of my books.
Right.
So
Awesome to get that series. I'm sure that is that pressure to get that done, but that is just wonderful. So I'm very happy for you with that. And when will those be out? Or when?
I don't know the exact date. It's fall of 2023 for the first one, so
Oh,
about a year from now, and
oh,
then 1 year after that for the next one.
right. So this
So
will be a busy time for you with publication because you got
it,
three.
yes, yes, three so far, and hopefully I can tell some more stuff soon. But that's a part of the publishing world, holding secrets that we don't talk about, but I do have secrets.
Right. That's what I hate is that you have to keep all these secrets. You can't, you're so excited about different things you can't tell anybody. And it takes so long
Hmm.
to
Yes.
fruits from your labor. But
So long.
but when we talk about puzzles, going back to picture books, I started writing picture books late last year, and I do find them to be kind of like a puzzle. Or I thought, like you said, middle grade for me in chapter books, that was way easier for me than picture books. But then I've just fallen in
Mhm.
love because it's like you're kind of putting a puzzle together or something. So it's so fun.
Oh, 100% agree. It is. I think your description is really accurate. It is kind of a puzzle. Like they're so simple, but getting those pieces just right is the hard part, and sticking the landing, I guess. But
Right,
but I do love it. I love the wordplay and how you can spend so much time on just like a word or a sentence, whereas with middle grade and I assume chapter books, um, you're working with a lot more words. So I mean, you do spend the time and make them good and revise and all of that, but not to the detail of picture books. So you can just things that I just gloss over in middle grade, I'm going to spend that time and make it perfect so it shines. And
right.
um, yeah, it's a different way of looking at words. And I like that switch to have two different ways of, depending on what I am in the mood for or how my brain is working that day.
Right. It's good to have those options. And what I love about shows like this and getting to talk to people like you is even with my family, they're supportive, but I'll be like, you got to see it. You got to, I'll be writing something like, what is she talking about? You know,
Oh,
picture books, especially.
yes, I agree. We I love my family and they are so supportive, but there are just things that unless you're in the trenches doing it, it's hard to really understand. So I agree. It's nice to talk to others like yourself who are doing it and they know just how hard it can be to find that right word or get through a book to revise it and get it ready for being on submission or the issues with making your brain work when you don't want to.
Right. Now, here's the question I have too. And if anyone has questions, we've got about 10 minutes left. You can put them in the comments and I'll pose them to Janet as well. But with your getting your agent, I've had people ask me about getting agents and things. What was that process like? And what do you recommend people do if they're interested in getting representation from a literary agent?
So the process was I'm on my second agent. So the first time you write a query letter and get that review. Don't just go by what you think. Have someone who hasn't read your book read through that and see if it makes sense and if they're interested in reading it. That can tell you so much. Write that query letter about your book. And I mean, it sounds old fashioned. And I know a lot of people think that you have to have connections. I did not know either of my literary agents. I cold queried and sent those out, and they liked it and asked to see more work. Um, and people get agents that way. I mean, the trick is write a good book. That's the very first thing. Do all
Right.
those things we talked about earlier. Get a critique group, study the craft, learn how to be a better author. And then when you're ready to query, that take your time writing a good one. If you No one should do that on their own. It always should be seen by someone else who hasn't read their book to know how it's reading. As the author of my works, I know it intricately. I know all the things, so I can fill in any gaps that may exist in a pitch about it. But
Mhm.
someone who hasn't read your work can't do that, and that's what you need is someone who can't fill in gaps that they can tell you where those gaps are and what is needed. And so the other thing, it can be scary sending out your work to agents. I highly recommend querytracker.net. There, you can find a lot of agents that way. You can also keep track of who you've sent to, when you sent to them, what you sent to them. When I was querying, I used that and it was very helpful. Um, but I just do it. It's scary, and getting those rejections back, it hurts. It does. I can't really gloss over that. It does. It's hard, but every rejection, you're just that much closer to getting the agent who's going to love it. And as much as it hurts, when you get to the end of that path, which, I sent the first time, I think it's around 80,
Oh,
80 queries. The second time was closer to like 30. So I got better. It's hard, but it's worth it. And I am so grateful for my agent. I could not do what I'm doing without her. She's been amazing.
right. Okay. So you actually, before you were agented, you sent out 80 queries. So that's a lot and that's dedication. But I guess it's kind of strengthening you for the whole process because then
Mhm.
more rejection and other things as you're going through the process. So,
Yeah, I mean that sounds horrible, doesn't it? 80 rejections, but I always say this, the difference between someone who succeeds at publishing and someone who doesn't is the person that succeeded did not stop when they got rejections. And that's what it takes. It's hard, but it takes persistence and not giving up even when people tell you no.
right, right. Now, what any other advice you'd give to those who are starting out as authors?
Um, I mean, I feel like I've given a lot of the best advice I give. And I think the big piece is kind of what you've been alluding to all along with social media is find your people. Like get friends who are in that same place as you or doing those same things that you are. That makes all the difference. It makes the ride so much better and so much more doable. Um, that may be by following people on social media and commenting and, building a relationship with people. I know I've loved kind of getting to know you better, even though we've never met in person, by commenting back and forth on our different things that we post. And I mean, you get to know people really well that way. My best friends have come, my best writing friends that now I talk to on the phone often, have come by being open to talking, well, messaging, however you want to say it, responding to someone else's social media. And
Right.
I just find your people.
Right. And I feel like especially on Instagram, and I'm not as active on Twitter, but I think they have a strong author community as well. Finding those community is a great way to even help each other, give advice
Mhm.
to each other, and be there to help when things are difficult. So that's good.
Exactly. And a lot of times they become your critique group. A lot of
Right.
those friends have turned into my critique partners, and it's just we're at whatever social media you like, whether it's Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, I don't know, whatever it is you like. And there's quite a few others, TikTok, right? Um, just be there, make comments, form relationships with the comments that you're making because that's where the good stuff is.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Janet. And where can people buy your works? Where can they find your books?
Um, Online, wherever books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, bookshop.org. Um, Most bookstores, if you go in, if they don't have it, you can ask and they can usually order that as well. So wherever books are sold.
Okay. And where can they follow you or find you?
On Instagram, I'm at Janet Sumner Johnson. So just my full name, my author name. On Twitter, I'm at Ms. Verbose, MSVERBOSE. And I have a website where I sometimes blog. I'm not as consistent as I would like to be. JanetSumnerJohnson.com, and you can find all of my links and my blogs there, and about my books and what all the events I'm doing. So.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Janet, for taking this time with us. And again, I highly recommend her reels, even just to get a smile if you're having a rough day, writer. Her reels are so inspirational and fun at Janet Sumner Johnson. And thank you all for joining us, and look forward to seeing you again next week for another episode of Write This. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for having me.